Right, here we are back again. We got cut off because of my external keyboard blips us off, and I'm very annoyed about that interruption. You know what? They're leaving now. Could have stayed out there, but I just saw, dozens of more of those steel gates or whatever it is they're delivering, and I thought, you're going to carry that on all day. I'm annoyed. I'm very annoyed because it was just really rude. They didn't need to be so noisy, but what do they care? They're working and they don't give a fuck and considerate. And that's just the nature of the beast, isn't it? People are inconsiderate. Anyway, have to share space with other humans. Retreat to my hobbit hole inside my house like a fucking prisoner because of dickheads. Oh, I'm wild. Can you tell that I'm a bit wild? Anyway, doesn't matter in the big scheme of things. It's just one minor interruption and then my video getting broken up again. I don't like it when my videos get broken up. That's also irritating, but it is what it is. People are there. And it also looks like the lovely weather's going to turn nasty, which is also upsetting because I wanted the birds to be outside for a large part of the afternoon today. So, we'll see if it starts raining. I'll have to hastily rush them back inside too. Anyway, multitasking. We'll start from the top of that paragraph because we got rudely interrupted over and over again. For some time, Bilbo sat and thought about this Watergate and wondered if it could be used for the escape of his friends, and at last he had the desperate beginnings of a plan. The evening meal had been taken to the prisoners. The guards were tramping away down the passages, taking the torchlight with them and leaving everything in darkness. Then Bilbo heard the king's butler bidding the chief of the guards good night. Now come with me, he said, and taste the new wine that has just come in. I shall be hard at work tonight, clearing the cellars of the empty wood, so let us have a drink first to help the labour. Honestly. Well, I didn't know they were going to go, did I? Some days are just like that, you can't win. Very good, laughed the chief of the guards. I'll taste with you and see if it is fit for the king's table. There is a feast tonight, and it would not do to send up poor stuff. Just going to open my window again. Still filming? Right, I'm going to have to be careful because this bloody thing is so sensitive. You only have to lightly brush it and it flicks us off. It's odd. Very odd. Alright, birdie boys. Mum Petite's back in the room. Literally back in the bloody room. Right. When he heard this, Bilbo was all in a flutter, for he saw that luck was with him, and he had a chance at once to try his desperate plan. He followed the two elves until they entered a small cellar and sat down at a table on which two large flagons were set. Soon they began to drink and laugh merrily. Luck of an unusual kind was with Bilbo then. It must be potent wine to make a wood elf drowsy. But this wine, it would seem, was the heady vintage of the great gardens of Dorwinion, not meant for his soldiers or his servants, but for the king's feasts only, and for smaller bowls, not for the butlers, great flagons. Very soon the chief guard nodded his head, then he laid it on the table and fell fast asleep. It's a bit like when you drink kosher wine, which is 12% alcohol, or Manischewitz wine. It's heady and it's thick like syrup and delicious, but if you drink a full wine glass of it, you're quite sozzled and sleepy indeed. So you have a tiny little shot glass of it to make the Mishaberach, the blessing, with. It's quite comical actually. Quite comical indeed. The butler went on talking and laughing to himself for a while without seeming to notice, but soon his head too nodded to the table and he fell asleep and snored beside his friend. Then in crept the hobbit. Very soon the chief guard had no keys, but Bilbo was trotting as fast as he could along the passages towards the cells. The great bunch seemed very heavy to his arms, and his heart was often in his mouth, in spite of his ring, for he could not prevent the keys from making every now and then a loud clink and clank, which put 'em all in a tremble. First he unlocked Balin's door and locked it again carefully as soon as the dwarf was outside. Balin was most surprised, as you can imagine, but glad as he was to get out of his wearisome little stone room. He wanted to stop and ask questions and know what Bilbo was going to do and all about it. "No time now," said the hobbit. "You just follow me. We must all keep together and not risk getting separated. All of us must escape or none, and this is our last chance. If this is found out, goodness knows where the king will put you next, with chains on your hands and feet too, I expect. Don't argue, there's a good fellow." Then off he went from door to door until his following had grown to 12, none of them any too nimble, what with the dark and what with their long imprisonment. Bilbo's heart thumped every time one of them bumped into another, or grunted, or whispered in the dark. "Drat this dwarvish racket," he said to himself, but all went well, and they met no guards. As a matter of fact, there was a great autumn feast in the woods that night, and in the halls above. Nearly all the king's fold were merry-making. At last, after much blundering, they came to Thorin's dungeon, far down in a deep place, and fortunately not far from the cellars. "Upon my word," said Thorin, when Bilbo whispered to him to come out and join his friends, "Gandalf spoke true, as usual. A pretty fine burglar you make, it seems, when the time comes. I'm sure we are all forever at your service, whatever happens after this. But what comes next?" Bilbo saw that the time had come to explain his idea as far as he could, but he did not feel at all sure how the dwarves would take it. His fears were quite justified, for they did not like it a bit and started grumbling loudly in spite of their danger. "We shall be bruised and battered to pieces and drowned too for certain," they muttered. "We thought you had got some sensible notion when you managed to get hold of the keys. This is a mad idea." "Very well," said Bilbo, very downcast and also rather annoyed. "Come along back to your nice cells, and I will lock you all in again, and you can sit there comfortably and think of a better plan. But I don't suppose I shall ever get hold of the keys again, even if I feel inclined to try." That was too much for them, and they calmed down. In the end, of course, they had to do just what Bilbo suggested, because it was obviously impossible for them to try and find their way into the upper halls, or to fight their way out of gates that closed by magic, and it was no good grumbling in the passages until they were caught again. So, following the hobbit down into the lowest cellars, they crept. They passed a door through which the chief guard and the butler could be seen, still happily snoring with smiles upon their faces. The wine of Dorwinion brings deep and pleasant dreams. There would be a different expression on the face of the chief guard next day, even though Bilbo, before they went on, stole in and kind-heartedly put the keys on his belt. "That will save him some of the trouble he is in for," said Mr. Baggins to himself. "He wasn't a bad fellow, and quite decent to the prisoners. It will puzzle them all too. They will think we have a very strong magic to pass through all those locked doors and disappear. Disappear! We have got to get busy very quick if that is to happen." Balin was told off to watch the guard and the butler give warning if they stirred. Strange way of putting it, isn't it? Told off usually means you've been berated. Well, anyway, the rest went into the adjoining cellar with the trapdoors. There was little time to lose. Before long, as Bilbo knew, some elves were under orders to come down and help the butler get the empty barrels through the doors into the stream. These were, in fact, already standing in rows in the middle of the floor, waiting to be pushed off. Some of them were wine barrels, and these were not much use, as they could not easily be opened at the end without a great deal of noise, nor could they easily be secured again. But among them were several others which had been used for bringing other stuffs, butter, apples, and all sorts of things to the king's palace. I'm tempted to go back outside now that those noisy mofos have gone. Well, anyway, we'll just forge ahead with the story. How many pages have we got left? Not that many. Right. They soon found 13, with room enough for a dwarf in each. In fact, some were too roomy, and as they climbed in, the dwarfs thought anxiously of the shaking and the bumping they would get inside, though Bilbo did his best to find straw and other stuff to pack them in as cosily as could be managed in a short time. At last 12 dwarfs were stowed. Thorin had given a lot of trouble, and turned and twisted in his tub and grumbled like a large dog in a small kennel, while Balin, who came last, made a great fuss about his air holes and said he was stifling even before his lid was on. Bilbo had done what he could to close holes in the sides of the barrels and to fix on all the lids as safely as could be managed, and now he was left alone again, running round putting the finishing touches to the packing and hoping against hope that his plan would come off. It had not been done a bit too soon. Only a minute or two after Balin's lid had been fitted on, and there came the sound of voices and the flicker of lights. A number of elves came, laughing and talking into the cellars and singing snatches of song. They had left a merry feast in one of the halls and were bent on returning as soon as they could. "Where's old Galion, the butler?" said one. "I haven't seen him at the tables tonight. He ought to be here now to show us what is to be done." "I shall be angry if the old slow coach is late," said another. "I have no wish to waste time down here while the song is up." "Ha ha!" came a cry. "Here's the old villain with his head on a jug. He's been having a little feast all to himself and his friend, the captain." "Shake him! Wake him!" shouted the others impatiently. Galion was not at all pleased at being shaken or wakened, and still less at being laughed at. "You're late," he grumbled. Here am I, waiting and waiting down here, while you fellows drink and make merry and forget your tasks. Small wonder if I fall asleep from weariness." "Small wonder," said they, "when the explanation stands close at hand in a jug. Come, give us a taste of your sleeping draught before we fall to. No need to wake the turnkey yonder. He has had his share, by the looks of it." Then they drank once round and became mighty merry all of a sudden, but they did not quite lose their wits. "Save us, Galion!" cried some. "You began your feasting early and muddled your wits. You have stacked some full casks here instead of the empty ones, if there is anything in wait." "Get on with the work," growled the butler. "There is nothing in the feeling of weight in an idle tosspot's arms. These are the ones to go and no others. Do as I say." "Very well, very well," they answered, rolling the barrels to the opening. "On your head be it, if the king's full butter tubs and his best wine are pushed into the river for the lake men to feast on for nothing." Roll, 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 rolling down the hole. Heave, ho, splash, plump, down they go, down they bump. So they sang, as first one barrel and then another rumbled to the dark opening and was pushed over into the cold water some feet below. Some were barrels, really empty. Some were tubs, neatly packed, with a dwarf each. And down they all went, one after another, with many a clash and a bump, thudding on top of ones below, smacking into the water, jostling against the walls of the tunnel, knocking into one another, and bobbing away down the current. I'm very amused because there's an elderly Asian man sitting across the street adjacent from me on the curb reading a newspaper. His ass took us down on the edge of the curb. I can't help being a little bit paranoid that he can hear me. He probably can, but oh well. He's reading his paper and I'm reading my book, so there you go. Kismet. It's just a bit odd. It's a little bit odd, my darlings. Anyway, it was just at this moment that Bilbo suddenly discovered the weak point in his plan. Most likely you saw it some time ago and have been laughing at him, but I don't suppose you would have done half as well yourselves in his place. Of course, he was not in a barrel himself, nor was there anyone to pack him in, even if there had been a chance. It looked as if he would certainly lose his friends this time. Nearly all of them had already disappeared through the dark trapdoor, and get utterly left behind and have to stay lurking as a permanent burglar in the elf caves forever. Here comes another annoying truck. What kind of a truck is it this time? Delivering something else, but not clanging things this time. They look like better bricks. Well, anyway, I'll just shut my window again. Try and drown out some of the noise. This is what I have to put up with here. It's been constant. Houses being built constant for about the last 15 years. And the next house to be levelled and rebuilt is my neighbour's directly behind me. Oh, that's going to drive me bats, people, the noise from that right next to me. Even that one's annoying, but it's actually, we're separated by the distance of the street, but that's going to be fucking torture. I'll have to make sure I go out every day or I'll just go insane. I really will. I'll go insane, people. I say this, but I never really go insane. I just throw my little epic tantrums like I did today. Well, that was just rude, wasn't it? Rude. Very rude. Right, where were we? We must continue on with the story. For even if he could have escaped through the upper gates at once, he had precious small chance of ever finding the dwarfs again. He did not know the way by land to the place where the barrels were collected. He wondered what on earth would happen to them without him, for he had not had time to tell the dwarfs all that he had learned or what he had meant to do once they were out of the wood. While all these thoughts were passing through his mind, the elves, being very merry, began to sing a song around the river door. Kermit walking across his very large chunky swing I bought him that he was being terrified of, but now he's sitting on it. He's sitting on it. It means he's going to start swinging on it, hopefully. Now he just walks across. It's a start though, isn't it? Good boy, Kermit. Good boy, you swinging? Are you going to swing? I gave him a fright and the window can't open. But anyway, I'm pleased because it cost me a lot of money, that bloody thing, $50. And all it is, I could have made it myself. Like I'll take a photo of it and I'll just replicate it next time, make one myself. All it is cut up pieces of branches, wired together on a kind of a platform with some hessian. I could have made it myself for like almost nothing, honestly. But anyway, I bought it and I was happy to buy it, and then I was grief-stricken when he wouldn't go on it and wouldn't use it. So he's getting the hang of it now. Once he gets the hang of it, he's going to really love it because it's got chunks of wood and he can swing, and then when he's not swinging he can chew it to bits with his beak, and I'll have to replace it. But I think he will really love it. He's only just overcoming his fear of it because it's, here he goes again looking at it now. Yep, he's on it. He's on, and then what he does is he walks across the platform and jumps off. So, but it's a start. He's looking at it swinging because it's swinging from the momentum of him jumping off. So he's realised, oh, it's actually a swing and I can swing on it. Yay. Well, I didn't waste my money after all because I get very annoyed when I buy things that are useless and a waste of my money. It's like money's a precious resource to me. I really hate when in all excitement and verve and happiness, buy things and then my children, or in this case my birds, hate what I bought them. Take it really personally. I've been really upset about that bloody swing, but I've spent a couple of days fussing over it. I changed all the hardware, and it had a hanger that went up through the middle, which I didn't think was strong enough, and I didn't like that, so I rearranged it and drilled holes through the other side. Oh, no, I didn't need to drill holes. I put a ring on each side of the swing and hung it up on stainless steel carabiner hooks that I bought specially for it because it's outside all the time. And I made it as best as I possibly could for my little birdie boy, and then he hated it. But he's getting it now. You go in the swing, Kermie? You gonna go in your swing? Your newly renovated swing that Mama worked so hard on? Yes, I did. Oh, yes, I did. Sweet. Oh, here he goes. Yay, swing time. Swing. He's sitting on it. Swing time. Come on. Like a little bloody kid with these birds, aren't I? I know. Well, what else have I got going on? Loud, bloody, obnoxious workmen sitting here slowly trying not to die for the love of all the gods. You can make it swing, Kermie. You can make it swing. He's sitting on top of it, like just sitting there now, not trying to run quickly off it. Good boy. And he's climbed off. Well, anyway, he's getting used to it. Thank the goddess. Oh, that upset me so much. He's going back on and off, on and off, on and off like a green-assed Indian ringneck. He's going round and around circles, keeps going back on, back off, back on, back off. Happy little boy now. Yes, see, Mama wasn't so silly after all. She knew you'd like that eventually. It took him a while. How long ago did I buy it now? I can't remember. A couple of weeks. Wow, interesting. Only to me, of course. So I'll carry on with the story, but I'm really excited and happy about that. Really happy he's enjoying that. Great. Great. Right, where were we? So he was worrying about that he didn't have time to tell them what he had learned or what he had meant to do when once they were out of the wood. While all these thoughts were passing through his mind, the elves, being very merry, began to sing a song round the river door. Some had already gone to haul on the ropes, which pulled up the portcullis at the water gate, so as to let out the barrels as soon as they were all afloat below. Down the swift dark stream you go, back to lands you once did know. Leave the halls and caverns deep, leave the northern mountains steep, where the forest wide and dim stoops in shadow grey and grim. Float beyond the world of trees, out into the whispering breeze, past the rushes, past the reeds, past the marshes waving weeds, through the mist that rises white up from mere and pool at night. Follow, follow, stars that leap up the heavens, cold and steep. Turn when dawn comes over land, over rapid, over sand. South away and south away, seek the sunlight and the day. Back to pasture, back to mead, where the kine and oxen feed. Back to gardens on the hills, where the berry swells and fills. Under sunlight, under day, south away and south away. Down the swift dark stream you go, back to lands you once did know. Swing it! Swing, Kermie! It's a bit heavy for you to push unlike your other swing. But you'll get the hang of it, my darling. You will. Yes. They're going to be the happiest Indian ringneck in the whole wide world. Maybe. Can't guarantee these things, can we? He is quite a chilled bird. He's quite happy-go-lucky, that one. Whereas little Bo the cockatiel, savage little basket. I made a video of him after I spent about half an hour trying to tame him down, hold him, rub his ears and rub his head. And he sat on my shoulder kind of traumatised afterwards. And then this isn't from him. I did that to myself, and I pulled my pillow up to scooch up around my mask and clawed myself. But he went to bite me, the little bastard, and I thought, oh, you're just so savage. But I'm going to this afternoon, I'm going to spend time holding him and scratching him. He's got to be tamed down. Because, if there's an emergency and I have to grab them in a hurry, they've got to trust to come to me, Little Kermie's not tame completely, but at least when I go to grab him with those dusting mitts, to protect myself from his bites. He bites down on the mitts, but he actually, sits in my hands and relaxes and understands that I'm bringing him somewhere, usually out in the garden. So he doesn't fight it so much, but I'm not going to grab them with my bare hands yet because both of them bite down quite hard. Anyway, I miss Charlie, but Charlie used to bite me from time to time too, but Charlie was just so in love with me. And will you remember, if you've seen my older videos, how she used to just sit on my shoulder and climb all over me and treated me like I was just her own extension of her own self sometimes. She was a very unique character. Right, let us continue, people of Earth. Now the very last barrel was being rolled to the doors. In despair and not knowing what else to do, poor little Bilbo caught hold of it and was pushed over the edge with it. Down into the water he fell, splash, into the cold, dark water, with the barrel on top of him. He came up again, spluttering and clinging to the wood like a rat. But for all his efforts, he could not scramble on top. Every time he tried, the barrel rolled round and ducked him under again. It was really empty and floated light as a cork. Though his ears were full of water, he could hear the elves still singing in the cellar above. Then suddenly the trapdoors fell to with a boom, and their voices faded away. He was in the dark tunnel, floating in icy water, all alone, for you cannot count friends that are all packed up in barrels. Very soon a grey patch came in the darkness ahead. He heard the creak of the water gate being hauled up, and he found that he was in the midst of a bobbing and bumping mass of casks and tubs, all pressing together to pass under the arch and get out into the open stream. He had as much as he could do to prevent himself from being hustled and battered to bits, but at last the jostling crowd began to break up and swing off, one by one, under the stony arch and away. Then he saw that it would have been no good even if he had managed to get astride his barrel, for there was no room to spare, not even for a hobbit between its top and the suddenly stooping roof where the gate was. Out they went under the overhanging branches of the trees on either bank. Bilbo wondered what the dwarves were feeling and whether a lot of water was getting into their tubs. Some of those that bobbed along by him in the gloom seemed pretty low in the water, and he guessed that these had dwarves inside. I do hope I put the lids on tight enough, he thought. But before long, he was worrying too much about himself to remember the dwarves. He managed to keep his head above the water, but he was shivering with the cold, and he wondered if he would die of it before the luck turned, and how much longer he would be able to hang on, and whether he should risk the chance of letting go and trying to swim to the bank. The luck turned all right before long. The eddying current carried several barrels close ashore at one point, and there for a while they stuck against some hidden root. Then Bilbo took the opportunity of scrambling up the side of his barrel while it was held steady against another. Up he crawled like a drowned rat and lay on the top, spread out to keep the balance as best as he could. The breeze was cold but better than the water, and he hoped he would not suddenly roll off again when they started off once more. Before long the barrels broke free again and turned and twisted off down the stream and out into the main current. Then he found it quite as difficult to stick on as he had feared, but he managed it somehow, though it was miserably uncomfortable. Luckily, he was very light, and the barrel was a good big one, and being rather leaky, had now shipped a small amount of water. All the same, it was like trying to ride without bridle or stirrups, a round-bellied pony that was always thinking of rolling in the grass. In this way, at last, Mr. Baggins came to a place where the trees on either side grew thinner. He could see the paler sky between them. The dark river opened suddenly wide, and there it was joined to the main water of the forest river flowing down in haste from the king's great doors. There was a dim sheet of water, no longer overshadowed, and on its sliding surface there were dancing and broken reflections of clouds and of stars. Then the hurrying water of the forest river swept all the company of casks and tubs away to the north bank, in which it had eaten out a wide bay. This had a shingly shore under hanging banks, and was walled at the eastern end by a little jutting cape of hard rock. On the shallow shore, most of the barrels ran aground, though a few went on to bump against the stony pier. There were people on the lookout on the banks. They quickly poled and pushed all the barrels together into the shallows, and when they had counted them, they roped them together and left them till the morning. Poor dwarfs! Bilbo was not so badly off now. He slipped from his barrel and waded ashore, and then sneaked along to some huts that he could see near the water's edge. He no longer thought twice about picking up a supper uninvited if he got the chance. He had been obliged to do it for so long, and he knew now only too well what it was to be really hungry, not merely politely interested in the dainties of a well-filled larder. Also, he had caught a glimpse of a fire through the trees, and that appealed to him, with his dripping and ragged clothes clinging to him, cold and clammy. You gonna swing, Kermie? Yes, you're gonna go in a swing. You're gonna be a swinging Indian ringneck, all green and fluttery, pardon me, and swinging happily. Yes, I know, I can see the weather's on a bit of a turn too. It's all right. Mummy will come and get you if it gets nasty. Just looks like we might get a shower, that's all. You'll be all right. I'm watching over you. Like a helicopter mother, by the gods. Anyway, we'll carry on. We'll carry on with the Hobbit, people of Earth. It's lovely and quiet again. Could be out there in the garden, couldn't we? Honestly. There is no need to tell you much of his adventures that night, for now we are drawing near the end of the eastward journey and coming to the last and greatest adventure. So we must hurry on. Of course, helped by his magic ring, he got on very well at first, but he was given away in the end by his wet footsteps and the trail of drippings that he left wherever he went or sat, and also he began to snivel, and wherever he tried to hide, he was found out by the terrific explosions of his suppressed sneezes. Most inconvenient, if you ask me. Sneezes are always very inconvenient and awkward and embarrassing at times. Very soon there was a fine commotion in the village by the riverside, but Bilbo escaped into the woods, carrying a loaf and a leather bottle of wine and a pie that did not belong to him. The rest of the night he had to pass, wet as he was and far from a fire. But the bottle helped him to do that, and he actually dozed a little on some dry leaves, even though the year was getting late and the air was chilly. He woke again with a specially loud sneeze. It was already grey morning, and there was a merry racket down by the river. They were making up a raft of barrels, and the raft elves would soon be steering it off down the stream to the lake town. Bilbo sneezed again. He was no longer dripping, but he felt cold all over. He scrambled down as fast as his stiff legs would take him and managed just in time to get on to the mass of casks without being noticed in the general bustle. Luckily, there was no sun at the time to cast an awkward shadow, and, for a mercy, he did not sneeze again for a good while. There was a mighty pushing of poles. The elves that were standing in the shallow water heaved and shoved. The barrels, now all lashed together, creaked and fretted. "This is a heavy load," some grumbled. "They float too deep. Some of these are never empty. If they had come ashore in the daylight, we might have had a look inside," they said. "No time now," cried the raftman. "Shove off!" And off they went at last, slowly at first, until they had passed the point of rock where other elves stood to fend them off with poles, and then, quicker and quicker, as they caught the main stream and went sailing away down, down towards the lake. They had escaped the dungeons of the king and were through the wood, but whether alive or dead still remains to be seen. And thus concludes today's offerings. of chapter 9. The next couple of chapters are slightly shortish, so what shall I do? I'll continue tomorrow, people will. But we'll do 2 chapters tomorrow because they're short ones. So there you go. Have a wonderful afternoon wherever you are on planet Earth in the space-time continuum. It is currently 12:21 p.m. on the 2nd of September 2025, and Yom Holedet Sameach, happy birthday to Tali Hickman Rorty. Have a wonderful birthday. I don't think she watches my videos, but I'm sending the blessings and celebration out to you anyway, and having just lost her husband only a short time ago, probably be a very there'll be a lot of sadness mingled with that, but a birthday is a birthday and should be celebrated regardless, and I hope she has. I hope you have a happy day, Tully, with your friends and family, and be surrounded in love today. Goddess bless. Have a beautiful day wherever you are, planet Earth, and I'll be back tomorrow, no doubt.